Hello everyone, this is Ravinder Dundra and welcome back to my channel. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about class 9th geography chapter number 4, that is climate. In the previous lectures about this chapter, we have already discussed what is climate, what is weather, and India faces which type of climatic condition. In that we have also seen that we actually experience this monsoon type of climate. So now in continuation with that, the next topic which we are going to discuss is about the climatic controls. That means what are the factors that decide the climatic condition of any particular place on the earth. So there are mainly 6 main factors, 6 main climatic controls that decides the climate of any place on the globe. So let us see what are these 6 factors. So the first one is this latitude, altitude, pressure and wind system, distance from the sea, which is also known as this continentality, then ocean currents as well as this relief features. So these are the 6 main controls which decide the climate of any area in the world. So first let us start with this latitude. So how does latitude determines the climate? So as you all know that, just for example, if you take this as a globe, you know this equator, tropic of Cancer and tropic of Capricorn, Arctic circle, Arctic circle as well as Antarctic circle, and you all know that the earth shape is something like curved shape. So therefore the amount of sun rays received by the earth surface is not same everywhere. So it mainly depends upon the type of latitude. For example, those areas which are near to this equator, they may experience even very high temperatures, hot climate, whereas these regions which are in near the Arctic circle, Antarctic circle, they may experience the lesser hot, you can say cold temperatures. The reason is that it is because of the latitudes and at the same time curvature of the earth. You can see the curvedness of the earth. Only one particular place, that is the equator, receives more and more heat from the sun. So the first and very important factor is the latitude that decides the climate. And the next very important thing is that apart from this latitude, the next one is this, the second one is this altitude. So how does this altitude also decides the climate? So what do you mean by altitude? Altitude means basically height, or you can say higher the areas, you can say higher areas. For example, as you all know that as we move towards the sky or into the space from the surface of the earth, actually the temperature will decrease. That means as we move on moving towards the sky or towards the space, what happens? The temperature will be decreasing. Therefore those areas which are located in the higher altitudes, that means which are higher than the sea level, mean sea level, those areas will actually experience this cold climatic conditions. And at the same time the temperature, as you all know, for every 1000 meters as we move upwards in the sky, it falls by 6 degrees Celsius. So suppose on the earth surface at present, at any particular place, if the temperature is 25 degrees Celsius, so as we move 1 kilometer above the sky from the earth surface, it may fall down to 19 degrees Celsius. So like this, the altitude also decides the climate of any particular place. Then the next one is apart from this altitude, the third factor that decides the climate of a particular place is this pressure and wind system. So at any area if you take the pressure and wind system, again it mainly depends upon 2 important things. One is the latitude as well as this altitude. So this latitude and altitude, they decide the pressure and wind system of any particular area, and at the same time these 2 things will also decide the temperature, at the same time rainfall of any particular area. So any pressure and wind system in any particular area is mainly dependent upon latitude, in which latitude it is located, at the same time the altitude, at what height it is located. So this will decide both the temperature and rainfall also of any particular place. So that is about this pressure and wind system. Then coming to the next one, that is distance from the sea. So what do you mean by this? Distance from the sea. how does the distance matters from the sea in order to decide the climatic conditions, so which we also call it as a continentality. So for example, we take for example India. We have coastal line from Gujarat to till this West Bengal in the country, which has a length of as you all know 7516.6 kilometers. So those areas which are lying in this the coastal region, they will experience something known as this a moderate climate. That means even if there is a change in the season, as we have discussed in the previous lecture, maybe from summer to winter, or winter to summer, or winter to summer to winter to, or rainy season, whatsoever it may be, there won't be much change in the climate of these coastal regions. But whereas as we move towards interior of the country, that means away from the sea, distance away from the sea, they experience continental climatic condition, which we can also call it as this extreme climatic conditions. So what do you mean by this extreme climatic conditions? Extreme means during the summers inside of the country, that means not the areas which are near to the sea, but interior of the country. You take these regions, whatever that located within the country, they will experience extreme climatic condition, which means during the summer they feel very hot. At the same time, during the winters they may feel very cold climatic conditions. So this type of what is that climate, we also call it as this continentality. Suppose if the distance is away from the sea, if they are far away from the sea, they experience continental climate. If they are very close, or if they are living on the coastal areas very close to the sea, they will experience this moderate climatic conditions. So distance from the sea also plays a very important role in the deciding the climate of a particular area. Then the next one is, after this distance from the sea, the next one is this ocean currents. Suppose, what do you mean by this ocean currents? You might have learned in your 7th standard. What do you mean by ocean currents? So ocean currents means, simply you can say, the streams of water which are continuously moving on the surface of the earth in a particular direction, in the surface of the ocean in a particular direction, we call them as these ocean currents. That means on the surface of the ocean, the water will be continuously moving from one direction to other direction, and these currents can be warm currents, at the same time cold currents. So what do you mean by this warm currents? What do you mean by this cold currents? So if the water is moving from poles towards the equator, we call them as this cold currents. And suppose if the water is moving, that means equator towards the poles, means we call them as this warm ocean currents. And these warm ocean currents, wherever they are moving, those areas they experience somewhat a very hot climatic condition, and at the same time those areas which get in touch with this cold ocean currents, they experience a cold climatic conditions. So the oceanic currents will also decide the climate of any particular area. So that is about this oceanic currents. Then the final factor, that is the relief features. You can say relief features. What do you mean by this relief features? Relief features means, again you take the highest and lowest place of an area, we call it as this relief feature. For example, we have if you take in the 2nd chapter, we have discussed about this Himalayas, which are located in the country. So you know this Himalayas, the highest place on the country, and these Himalayas, you can say, one of the best relief features which India has. So what they do is that they protect us from cold, and sometimes they even protect us from hot winds which are blowing from the Asia, that means in Central Asia. And at the same time, these relief features will also affect the cause of rainfall. That means sometimes you can say the orographic rainfall will occur because of this relief features, or you can say because of this higher mountains. Why? Because those clouds which carry water, when they get in touch with these mountains, what happens? They start precipitating in the form of rain. So relief features, that means the mountains will also decide the climate of any particular place in the earth, on the earth surface. So once again, if you see, there are mainly 6 features that decides the climatic controls. They are latitude, altitude, pressure and wind system, distance from the sea, ocean currents, as well as this relief features. So next we will discuss India's climatic condition. Let us discuss in detail about the factors affecting the India's climate. So there are mainly 3 important types of factors that are affecting our India's climate. There one is latitude, altitude, and the third one is pressure and winds. So first in this lecture we will discuss about latitude and altitude, and then the upcoming lectures we will discuss about this pressure and winds. So first let us start with this latitudes. So how does this latitude is deciding the climate of our country? So as you all know that, if you can see, there is a latitude which is passing through almost the center of our country, that is the 23.5 north latitude, which we also call it as this Tropic of Cancer. So this Tropic of Cancer, it is passing almost through center of this India, and from where to where it is passing? From Rann of Kutch in Gujarat to Mizoram in the eastern side. On the western side in Gujarat it is in Rann of Kutch, and on the eastern side it is in the Mizoram towards the east, and half of the country is lying below this Tropic of the Cancer. That means the area you can see here, whatever the area you can see here, it is just lying this below the equator. And as you all know very well that the area which is lying between this Tropic of Cancer in the north, Tropic of Capricorn in the south, this particular region we call it as this torrid region, or we can also call it as tropical zone. So here India's climate, you can say in one way it is something like a tropical climate. Why? Because you can see which is located in the torrid zone. So like this it is located. So here half of the India is lying in the tropical region or torrid zone, and the other half, the remaining area, lies in the north of Tropic of Cancer, this region. So India's climate is basically characterized with 2 different types. One is tropical climatic condition, as well as this subtropical climatic condition, which means the areas which are lying below this Tropic of Cancer will experience more heat and more temperatures compared to the area which is lying above this Tropic of Cancer. So you can see how the latitude is affecting the climate of our country. This Tropic of Cancer is dividing, and half is experiencing tropical climate and the other half is experiencing this subtropical climate. So next we will see about this altitude, how it is affecting the India's climate. Let us discuss about the other important factor that affects India's climate, that is altitude. So as you all know very well that we have Himalayas which are flowing from Jammu Kashmir towards this till this Arunachal Pradesh, and with an average height of 6,000 meters. And because of the presence of these Himalayas, what is happening is that we have something like we are not getting this cold winds from the Central Asia. So any place, if there are higher mountains are there, or if there are higher altitudes are there, means what we can get is that we may be protected from the cold winds which are blowing from the central part of the Asia. And apart from that, we also have this vast coastal area where the maximum elevation is 30 meters. That means those areas which are lying in the coastal areas, their maximum height from the sea level is 30 meters, whereas those areas, those Himalayas which are located here, their height from the sea level is somewhere around 6,000 meters. So because of the presence of these Himalayas which are lying in the northern part of India, we are getting protection from cold winds from Central Asia, and because of that, what is happening, we experience only middle winters. That means those areas, those countries which are lying above these Himalayas and the other regions of Central Asia, they experience somewhat extreme winters. But because of the presence of Himalayas, the Indian subcontinent, we actually experience this middle, that means normal winters. And if you take this what is this coastal areas which are lying closer to this sea area, or you can see their height is 30 meters. So therefore the climate which they experience is completely different from the climate where these mountains will experience. So here we can experience this moderate climate. As I told, those areas which are nearer to the sea or ocean, they experience moderate climatic condition compared to the interior of the country. So therefore these are the two ways, mainly two ways. One is latitude and altitude, how India's climate is being affected. In the next lecture we will discuss in detail about pressure and winds and how they affect our India's climate. Thank you.